Well, I'm left with this George G, and the time is right. Welcome to today's guest, strong and powerful Christi Myers. Christi, are you ready to do this?
Yes, indeed.
All right, let's go. Christi is the founder and CEO of Flow Interactive Psychedelic Wellness. They're a ketamine psychotherapy practice helping clients deal with mood disorders and substance abuse. Christi, I'm excited to have you on. Tell us a little about your personal life, some more about your work, why you do what you do.
What I do. Thank you for having me. I hold a lot of different roles. I'm a mom. I have two children, 10 and 12. They are definitely my greatest teachers. I've been in emergency medicine for the last 22 years. I received my tenure as a professor additionally, just recently, actually, about 3 years ago. At that same time frame is when ketamine found me. I'd entered my classroom, my drug box, and my professional awareness at a much deeper level of comprehension. I currently transitioned out of the classroom and that professional realm to fully embody flow and do my very best to help deduce suffering and pave the way. Psychedelics are not new, but we're definitely getting another go at it. And the mission is to bring awareness to the human species and collective consciousness, with the main goal of, you know, moving our species forward so that we're more humane and nicer to Earth. That's truly that's truly the mission and a little snapshot, right?
I love it. That's only
Thanks.
mildly ambitious. Do you think you're going to be able to do it, Christy?
I do too, George. I'm gonna give it everything I got, right? Or die trying. That's it. There's not a plan B in this. We're moving that way.
It is a story of commitment. So I certainly appreciate that.
That's real.
Um, so yes, you have a lot of interests and have enjoyed a lot of success, and
Yeah.
respect and appreciate all of that. I know that it requires grit and hard work and determination. Why or how psychedelics? Why and how ketamine?
We are psychedelic. If we could go back just a couple years, one of my most fascinating lectures that I put together was the awareness that we are the drugs, right? And that can be a trigger word. Drugs can be definitely taken in many realms of understanding, but in the big picture, we are a Schedule 1 drug. We are made of DMT. We're made of endocannabinoids. What do all those things mean? It means that we are psychedelic. We are not separate from, just like they are not separate from us. It's the route of entry, it's the mechanism of action, it's the set and setting. There's multiplicities to how we experience ourselves. Psychedelics are a catalyst into our own inner awareness, period. And that really became the mission. How do we truly embody our species and move our consciousness forward or expand our consciousness, which is where psychedelics are the big piece in this. And then why ketamine? Well, ketamine's FDA approved. Ketamine's been around longer than I have, and ketamine is a very safe medicine. And so, therefore, in my grown up years, my choice is to do legal things.
Smart.
Thanks. I've been on this mission to also really bring accessibility to this medicine so that it's not an upper echelon or we think that it's an unobtainable medicine, which is where we've been working on insurance coverage. And the exciting piece of this, George, is that we just finished our first, well, we're coming up on our first year of being the pilot clinic for the world's first insurance company for psychedelics. where ketamine is the primary mechanism because, again, it's legal, it's safe, and it's FDA approved.
So you are, where ketamine has I was just going to say, and I'll just go ahead and say it, and you can
It,
correct me
gotta
in
say
my
it.
language. It is super practical.
Mhm.
It has very, very practical and pragmatic uses, like dealing with depression and anxiety and PTSD, and it gives us the opportunity to explore our consciousness as individuals and then collectively.
Correct.
So you are doing both of these things.
Absolutely. It's symptom reduction. That's the byproduct of expanding your consciousness, which is where this is something that I work on in my mind, in conversation all the time. How do we really truly express this? Well, we it is said to be we only use 5% of our conscious mind. So what the hell's going on with the other 95%, right? And at what point do we become satisfied with only using 5%? And so therefore, how do we expand it? Well, first is to recognize that we are it. There's some really famous quotes, right? Gandhi is one of them. It says, "You become the change that you want to see in the world." Well, that's the truth, because we're collective in togetherness. I'm not separate from you just as much as you are not separate from me. So if I suffer, you also suffer because it's a collective unconsciousness just as much as there is collective consciousness, right? And so the every time we sit with this medicine or when we sit with psychedelics, we become aware of ourselves, meaning we have a deepening of the relationship of either where we hold trauma, tension, programs, patterns, perversions, distractions, distortions, whatever they may be in your human being. Each person is the variable. We 99% of abuse comes from the home, meaning none of us came out of childhood unscathed, right? And depending on the depth of the trauma, depending on our coping strategies and our ability to navigate waters, we all have different ways and different symptomology, presentations, whether that's physical, psychological, whatever it may be. The variable is the trauma, the variable is the human, right? So first we really have to work with an awareness that psychedelics are simply an opportunity for you to go within and then you make of it what you make of it. You just want to put yourself into situations where you have an experienced guide and you know the medicine is safe. And that's what this mission is. It's how do we become accessible to the majority? And we do the work in togetherness, meaning recognizing that we are in this together. And for each thing that we work on, you're mirroring me just as much as I am mirroring you. And so, therefore, it allows us to come together. It allows us to embody a frequency of love as the greatest gift that we can give each other.
Amazing.
Thank you.
So we're currently operating 5%. That's of our conscious mind or our subconscious mind?
It's our conscious mind.
Of our conscious mind. And and I certainly, we as collective human beings on earth or whatever we
Mhm.
are are all experiencing lots of problems. There's lots of bad things in the world. And the idea that the more we can access and go inside of ourselves via, in this example, psychedelics, we can increase that 5% to higher, and that will help me to heal past wounds, trauma, elevate myself. And in me elevating myself, it elevates the collective.
Correct.
And
That's
that's
beautiful.
good.
That was beautifully said. Heck yeah, it's good. Uh, we start to see that the more we give our power away or we allow the outside influences of problematics to impact our human being, it's a waste of our time and energy, right? The more we give things that are poor, our attention, our anger, our resentment, whatever it may be, it actually is doing more impact to us individually, right? Another quote with anger, it's like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die, right? And so, truly, the more we turn inward and do our work, and the more we resonate and truly use our hearts as a frequency, we're vibrating love. We are doing our best to show up as better human beings, the greater impact we have to the collective, which in totality, it will raise the vibration of Earth and all of its habitants, which then we can step into a place where it's not so scary to go outside.
That makes sense. So, catalyst to our own inner awareness. Is that prohibitive because it scares people? Is that exploration, is that journey, is looking inward too much for people? Or, and if it's not, or I guess, how do we get started with that? What does that look like?
For sure, ketamine is definitely one of the more gentle medicines to sit with. So, if you are curious, the intravenous or IV route of ketamine allows you to have an experience that can also be readily shut off if you are having something or you come into your own problematics, right? I mean, one of the number one questions we ask people is how familiar are you with your nervous system? And if you've never sat with yourself before, it can be uncomfortable. And so, to your first question, some people are not ready for it. It's not, we have two choices, right? And one is either we suffer so incredibly that there's only one choice, and that is to endure the suffering or to become so aware of our suffering that we can no longer avoid it. Or we're witnessing the suffering and we're stepping in to our own actualization, even if we're scared. That's it.
I like it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is how does that relate to grit?
Oh,
Because it when I'm in flow, I don't need grit, or am I wrong?
well, I believe it's the grit that gets you to flow. Uh, Grit is the longevity of adversity, right? It's continuing regardless of circumstantials, regardless of how you feel, you keep showing up. That allows you to have grit, or it gives you grit. It's not something that, you get really good at or it just goes away. And at some point you find grace in that, which that's where flow occurs. Because you are now able to look in your past or your what's behind you as wisdom, and no longer from a place of contention, right? To where now I'm just ruminating and reliving and blaming my right now on my 30 years ago. It's like, okay, hey, this is the cards that I was dealt. They were a pretty shitty hand. This is how I'm going to play them, knowing all the things that I've learned for the past 42 years, or however old you are. It's at what point are we going to take accountability for ourselves and recognize that the words that are coming out of our mouths are the creations of our realities. Each person independently creates their own reality. And then we have commonality, right? We all like genres. We all like places to eat. We all like sporting things, whatever it is. There's a collective of what we like in togetherness, but we all still have our own observations of what's occurring. So once we recognize that each person individually is creating their reality, then we would honestly stop caring what other people think, because we know it's an impossibility to be in someone else's reality and show up the way they want us to show up, because we're creating our reality of how we see them. It's a little bit of crazy making, right?
Mhm.
Which is what keeps us in this trauma loop. History is repeating itself blatantly. And yet here we are still participating in it as if we don't have the capability to create a brand new reality. And the reality that I choose to embody is love as a frequency. And every single day I self-reflect on how I can be a better me. That's the journey, right? And so psychedelics, when you sit with them, they allow you to see you. And so, again, coming back to that last question, it's an uncomfortable question, right? What happens if you're not ready to sit with yourself? Well, uh, the universe will crack you open when it's ready. And historically, we say it comes in threes, which is also a travesty, right? Like, how many things do you need to endure before your heart is breaking so clearly that you have no choice than to sit in that suffering? Oh, and that's when we start to do the inner work, or I would hope that we are doing the inner work. And if we're not, that's okay. All of us are in this together. We're 100% all one. And so, therefore, each person is doing the best that they can with what they have and what they know.
A lot of really great stuff. Um, the idea of the relationship between grace and grit, I love, because probably, well, I know that I'm certainly guilty of it, and I'm trying to not beat myself up over past indiscretions or mistakes or whatever. Just be, have negative feelings about my behaviors in the past, and to appreciate that you transition to wisdom when you just let that be a teacher and are constantly trying to improve, and that becoming a better version of me, that's a big part of what this journey is. And I makes me think that I can do all this work, and I just wrote down online versus offline. It's not really necessarily correct, but that I can be doing all this work consciously and thinking about past trauma that I've experienced and working on that while I'm just actually actively thinking about it. But I'm going to reach a limit to some point, and that's where the catalyst of psychedelic is my opportunity to unlock new and different levels of learning and consciousness.
Absolutely. And to be very clear, again, to that beginning statement that we are the drugs, right? Breath work and meditation. That's it. That's all we need. So, how do you get there, right? For a lot of us, we don't even know we're breathing, let alone the importances of how to fully expand and allow breath to become an endogenous and beautiful experience of dimethyltryptamine, which is DMT. We can cultivate that through breath and mechanical application of pressure against the pineal gland. A meditation allows you to become familiar with yourself. It allows you to hear the inner dialogue. It allows you to tame your physical body. If you can't sit still, it's a sign that you need to sit still, right? The physical body is also unconscious. It's a relic of the past. And so, therefore, if you've ever told yourself, I'm going to start in the morning, and then the body the next morning's like, you can see the disconnect between the mind and the body. And so, truly, it's allowing people to expand at their level of awareness. For some of us, meditation and breath work is an absolute no and sounds woo. But when you have a psychedelic experience, say for example, ketamine, it's a dissociative, meaning it separates you from your body. When you come back into your body, you have a new relationship, a new awareness. For some, that's like, my God, I didn't even recognize what it was like to breathe until I recognized that I didn't recognize I was breathing. Whole new awareness, right? For others, they become aware of where they hold tension. For others, it's a newfound awareness of how to treat the body, because that's also part of this human experience, is how we truly treat our vessel.
I love it.
And I love it too. Uh, Psychedelics are helpers. It's a tool in the grand scheme of all of it. But what's really groovy is that tool is lock and key with a lot of mechanisms in our physical body that are gifts from Earth and have been around longer than the humans. Fantastic fungi would open your eyes greatly to that.
Well, Christy, you've certainly given me a lot of things to think about and digest, and some new ideas, lots of new ideas. And I imagine a lot of people who are listening, a lot of new ideas. So thank you so much, and thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more? How can they engage with you and your work?
Uh, you can call me at 909 735 flow. Or you can find us at flowintegrativeketamine.com. We are located in Encinitas as well as the Bay Area, well, right by Half Moon Bay in San Mateo.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, if you enjoyed this as much as I did, show Christy your appreciation and share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Give her a call at 909-735-FLOW, and or go to flowinteractiveketamine.com. Thanks again, Christy.
I appreciate you.
And until next time, remember, do your part by doing your best. And we're certainly all in this together.